morning, Grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. Blender at blenderhd. You can follow me there on Twitter. And this is the show where we talk a little bit about yesterday's slate, maybe talk a little bit about today's slate. Maybe we may do something slightly different. We'll be talking about a slate, but maybe not today's baseball slate. And I answer your strategy questions on DFS. Anything you want. It's Casual Friday. Casual Friday. Hit that thumbs up button. I see you guys in the YouTube chat. Suki Singh, Frederick Dude, J10, Jesse, SL, Hog Lawrence, Doug Montgomery, Dave Evans, Joe Mack, 0058. Good morning. Hit the thumbs up button. You know what to do. I got my apple juice. Hit the thumbs up button, thummy thumbs, give me the thummy thumbs. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We got NBA Grinders live later, MLB Grinders live. I think, is it NBA like done? Aren't we done after this week? I mean, obviously the playoffs, but are we finally done with creative players starting and people saying that they're going to play and then don't play? That's what I heard yesterday. Some people on the Raptors were supposed to play and then they didn't play and then the Pacers got injured, or I don't know. I just look at my Twitter stream and see everyone tilting. I haven't played NBA in a month and a half, right? I ain't dealing with it. I'll play baseball, right? Play MLB like I did yesterday. Did well on FanDuel. I was close. Ended up coming in 11th in their big GPP on FanDuel with a weird Tampa Bay / Cleveland stack. I mean, basically, the story of yesterday was Cincinnati didn't get there, right? Jonathan India got there. But we had Senzel, who got injured. Then Moustakas got taken out of the game. Chichi Rodriguez pitched 7 innings of like 1-run baseball, which is what we didn't expect. Rich Hill apparently just turned into Cy Young for a game. The Yankees apparently can't hit curveballs. And Luis Castillo just gets shelled again. Just doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Right? He should be the best pitcher on the slate. No, doesn't matter. Now, Luis Castillo just shelled, completely shelled. Zach Plesac puts up the lowest amount of points for having like one of the best real life games, right? 19 points, right? He was taking a no-hitter into the 8th inning. But he only had like 1 or 2 strikeouts, so it doesn't get you as many points as you think. But basically, if you didn't play, I mean, look at how much ownership was in duds. 41% Moustakas, 39% Winker, 39% Suarez, 37% Senzel, 30% Castellanos, who got 12, but that's not necessary. 26% Barnhart. If you were over on the Reds yesterday, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, the Colts, yeah, he had plenty. BK Reader had plenty, but most didn't. Ending, not much. Whistles Go Woo was under. Need Lunch Money way under. Neil, about equal. Under on Castellanos because he was expensive. You have to find a way to get different. Especially with pitching yesterday. Pitching, I mean, you could fit in the Reds. Right? People played Logan Gilbert. I mean, he got 8 points. I mean, he got hit up by the Indians, but he also got 5 strikeouts. Minaya got crushed by the Red Sox. So, I mean, there weren't that many pitching points to have. Like Trevor Rogers, Tyon got you 15, Javier got you 18, Plesac got you 19, Rich Hill 32, sure. Garrett Richards apparently magically has a good game. So it really wasn't made up by the pitchers. I mean, you could have won with any kind, as long as they didn't go negative, right? As long as you didn't have Castillo or Minaya or Folty or something like that. I mean, you probably could have even won with Logan Gilbert's 8 because he was only 4K, maybe. The problem is that you're spending down on Logan Gilbert so you could spend up on Coors bats, on the Reds, who didn't get there. But really, it was Boston, Colorado. If you had a Boston, Colorado combination, that's really what got you there. If we take a look at the winning lineup, single bullet winning lineup. Boston. 4-man Boston, 2 Colorado, Jose Ramirez and Jonathan India. A 4-2-1-1, whatever, with Javier and Hill. There you go. right? Connor Joe, he had a game. Right, didn't even have Fuentes, and Fuentes had a game. Let's take a look at next lineup. Bogarts, Martinez, Rosa. Here's the Rays. Right, didn't even need Colorado. Plesac, Richards. You got three-man. It's a 3-3. It's a mess. Let's take a Utah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 2, 1. So you got Colorado. You got Rosarina and Meadows. Tapia. It's Suarez. Okay, Suarez is 0. He still almost got there with Javier and Plesac with the shoot chalk pitchers. 1-800-EDDIE. Similar. This is a 5-3 Colorado-Boston stack. Bogarts, Chavez. You got Fuentes in there. Daza. This almost got there. Rogers, Javier. No Rich Hill, right? Any Rich Hill here? No Rich Hill there. Any Rich Hill? Anyone had Hill? Tyon, there's Tyon. On DK. I mean, on FanDuel, Rich Hill was like 2% owned. So here we go. Here's a Rich Hill, 6%. Single bullet. Mess of a lineup. Just messy. Right? Messy because it's like, it's nothing. It's just 2 and 2 and 1 and who knows? As long as you got the home runs, right? Bogarts, Martinez, Meadows, Calhoun. Most of his infield just didn't get there. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, how do you fade Cincinnati? They had a 6+ run total against Chichi Gonzalez. It's also a 6-game slate. So look at this ownership. 41, 39, 37. And why are you playing 5-man stacks of Cincinnati? I mean, you could get different elsewhere, but my attitude is like I played on FanDuel. FanDuel was slightly different, but on DraftKings, 5-man. I would have just X'd out 5-man stacks of Cincinnati. At this ownership, this is ridiculous. On FanDuel, I was under, and I was barely playing 4-man stacks of Cincinnati on FanDuel. So I think the ownership on FanDuel was lower than this. And on FanDuel, I mean, because DraftKings, they priced them down a little too much. Like, obviously, Winker and Castellanos were appropriately priced on DraftKings. But Moustakas and Suarez and Senzel, when Barnhart, they priced out 4,100 or something. Okay. But it's really these two, Moustakas, Suarez, and Senzel, that allowed you to just, okay, I could get Castellanos. I mean, who are you paying for? Plesac was cheap enough. Like Javier on DraftKings was $10K. Was that needed? No. People took a shot on Castillo. That's 16.8%. You heard me on the Morning Grind podcast. I'm like, if he's going to be 3%, I want a lot of him. But I think I literally said if he's going to be 16%, he's like, take a shot. Maybe. Efficiently owned. Right? So I think he was efficiently owned at 16%. But we see a lot of sharp players that went over and got crushed. Even Colorado was owned because they're in Colorado, right? Let's take a look. Not much Yankees. I think the Yankees came in under-owned. I mean, they didn't do anything, but I think staying under 10% on a 6-game slate against a lefty. I had a lot of A's, right? Look at the A's, 6%, 6%. I mean, I had the A's on FanDuel, but they were about that owned on FanDuel. Seth Brown, 4%. Lowry, 4%. Against Garrett Richards of all pitchers. I mean, the Rays were, look, Rosarina was 2%. Meadows was 3% against Tyon. It's not like, oh, he's an ace or anything. There are ways to get different. I mean, if you just don't jam in all the reds, you could find these stacks. I don't know why people get so scared. Oh, but what happens if Cincinnati puts up 14 runs? Well, then you'll lose. You know, is yesterday the last day ever of DFS? If I don't win today, there could never be any DFS ever. No. So don't play the red X amount. Oh, that's risky. So, and you lose and you move on to the next day. That was the most legitimate shot you could get at first place. If you wanted to literally X out the reds. Now, what I'm saying is you don't even have to do that. Just don't play them as a stack. Play them as one-offs. Play them as two-offs even. In a 5-2-1 or something like that. If you went into yesterday, like I'm building 20 lineups and 10 of them are Cincinnati 5-mans, do you really want to win first place? Yeah, but I'm playing a one-off of Mark Canna, and like, who cares? You're gonna be tied with so many people with these stacks. I mean, look at this ownership. This is over what we projected. I think it is a little bit over. Wigger wasn't cheap. He's 39% owned. Cassiano was 6K. He's 30% owned. Look at Rosarina's 2%, right? We have actual hitters. We're not talking about bad players down here. Right? We're not talking about playing, Bobby Dahlbeck hit a home run, but I mean, that's a big difference. They're not playing Jonathan Arauz or whoever the hell that is, right? For the Red Sox batting ninth. Rosarina, Margot, David Dahl, Kyle Seager against Plesac. Meadows, Devers, lefty, 3%. Brandon Lowe, Garcia. I mean, these are real players. Dribble Cabrera, 4%. Brian Anderson, 4%. I mean, we're not talking about bad players that look how low owned they are for a 6-game slate. Matt Chapman's 5%. Right, Matt Chapman's 5%. Eugenio Suarez is 39%. And it could happen. Look what happened yesterday. Cincinnati. Sorry. I don't pick the right days. Sometimes people say that to me. I do that sometimes, but then when I fade them, then they go off. It's like, don't remember those. Who cares? Who cares what happened in the past? At this ownership, you should be doing it every time. Yes, and most of the time you'll be wrong and you'll lose, and that's it. But when you're right, you have a shot at first. People look at my FanDuel lineup and go, Tampa Bay, Cleveland lineup? What made you build that? Well, it wasn't a Cincinnati lineup. That's all I cared about. As long as it wasn't a Cincinnati lineup, but who cares what teams I'm meshing together? That lineup had Cleveland, Tampa Bay, and Xander Bogaerts as a one-off in the shortstop spot. So yeah, that and Javier up top. But it had a Rosarina and Lowe and Meadows, and it had Jose Ramirez, Franmil Reyes. I mean, what made you play Franmil Reyes? Well, it fits in the lineup, and it's not the thing about those lineups. They're not Cincinnati lineups. That's it. That's what I did yesterday. I played every stack on FanDuel other than Seattle. I played 100 lineups. Now I played more of Oakland and Houston, a little bit more on Houston and a lot more in Miami. We didn't get there. But I played, 4 or 5 lineups with Tampa, Cleveland, some of the other teams. But my goal was I was just under on Cincinnati. And it's a 6-game slate. And I'm playing a lot of Plesac, so I'm probably not going to play Seattle, and they don't project well anyway. And it's FanDuel. It's a one-pitcher site, so I don't have to roster 2 pitchers. So there you go. So what do I do? So just give me lineups that don't have the Cincinnati in them. Sometimes that's the strategy. What is everyone else doing? Just make lineups that they're not. Jesse Atfield, is there a slate size threshold on DK where you start to consider playing both opposing pitchers? Or is losing the win equity not worth it? You can't. It depends on their price. Jacob deGrom versus Garrett Cole, and they're both 3,000. Yeah, you play both. I mean, it's more of the price. The chances of them getting a win on most slates is like 40% for either pitcher anyway. So you combine that together. It's like the negative correlation is like a point and a half. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not huge. But it's still worth considering. Let's see. People talking about Oakland pitching. Casual Friday question. Do you see Wade Miley getting 12 strikeouts tonight? Probably not. Probably not. Isn't he pitching? They're pitching in Colorado, right? I barely looked at today's slate, okay? We have Scherzer on the slate. We have some ace pitchers. Kershaw, Glasnow, I think. Wade Miley getting 12 strikeouts? Probably not. J10, if you take yesterday's slate at the context, what lineup stack would have made sense in a single entry 700-person contest on DK? Anything but Cincinnati. That's the answer. Anything but Cincinnati. Pick anyone you want. I went with Oakland. I went with Houston. I mean, on FanDuel. Oakland, Houston. If you played and it's a 6-game slate. People think too hard into this. Every other team on the slate was underowned. Every single one of them. Every one of them. Cincinnati was way overowned. So if you played any other team but Cincinnati, you were correct. Based on especially this ownership on DK. That's all you could judge it by. You're just judging by the ownership. I take a look at this ownership. I'll take away pitchers. I mean, look at this. This is just insane. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 26% and above. So if you made a stack of any of the combination of these, like it was like at least a quarter of the contest on one team. The next looked like to be the Astros. Alvarez, Tucker, Bregman, Altuve. So Houston would have been a little bit below them, but everything else is just like, dude, play anyone you want at that point. I mean, look at this ownership. This is ridiculous. I don't care what the total was. I don't care Chichi Rodriguez or whoever. Chichi Gonzalez. The old golfer, Chichi Rodriguez, was pitching. I'm a 5-man stack. Get out of here. Done. Maybe you play a 3-man, right? You played a contrarian Rays stack and you wanted to play 3 Reds with it. Go for it. Have fun. At this ownership on DraftKings, I can't see a 5-man, any 5-man stack lineup really to be plus EV. I can't. How is that possible? I mean, unless you're really mixing in some really, I guess maybe with the 3-man Rays, right? If you had a Rosarina, Meadows, did something like that. But I mean, how do you have that on DraftKings? Because you have to fit 2 guys in the outfield for the Cincinnati stack. But obviously, if you use Jonathan India in your stack, okay. Now they came down a little. This ownership, I just like if I would have known this. I mean, I didn't play on DraftKings, but if this was the ownership on FanDuel, I would have played way less of the Reds. I did play the Reds, but I was more than half the field under the Reds, and mostly as one-offs and dream and secondary stacks, not as a 4-man. I wasn't going to play on FanDuel a Moustakas, Suarez, Senzel, Castellanos type of lineup. So that's the answer. Sometimes the answer is what you don't do. And if you did anything else other than that, that's fine with me. Michael Dompier, RG estimated Castillo at 8%, I think. I know you don't have the access to the hamster wheel, but thoughts on why it ended up closer to 20%? The bat loved Castillo. Does it have that much pull? No, well, how about around the industry? It's not just the bat. It's not just a... You have to understand that RotoGrinders is just a small part of a much bigger industry. No one place has that much pull. But you can see here, I mean, I know, I mean, look, we go to pitcher. I mean, some of these guys have their own models, right? BK Reader, Need Lunch Money, Uticow. Uticow, 39% Castillo. I mean, they have their own models. And they're getting Castillo. So it's not just, you know, the play IQ projections or the bat or some other site or something. He's 6,200, and he's if you took the largest sample size of his career, he's the past 3 years, he's the most talented pitcher on the slate. Going up against the Rockies without Story in their lineup, without Hampson in their lineup. I mean, the Rockies lineup look horrible. Yeah, it's in core, sure. But Castillo was 6,200. So yeah, so people jumped on board. At 20%, I think that's like an efficient ownership. If everyone thought he was going to be 8% owned, maybe that's why they jumped on board, right? Sometimes that has an effect on things. Nate Branshaw says, I was playing lots of Cleveland in single entry last night and completely fading the cores. Condensed ownership in those contests creates an easier path to first if cores fails. Thank you. That's exactly the point that I'm making. Especially in single entry, but even more owned. Right, in single entry yesterday, I would have literally X'd out the Reds. Just X'd them out completely. Not even as one-offs, just done. And then build whatever lineup you want. At that point, you hope they don't get there, and that's it. If they don't get there, how many paths are there to win first? Tons. Any of the other teams. I mean, like, you're destroying like half the lineups in the contest to some extent. So at that point, like, build whatever lineup you want. You have a feeling, you know, your nose twitches for the Red Sox. Oh, go play them. On these type of slates where there's so much condensed ownership in one team, one game, it really comes down to, does that game get there or does it fail? And I always bet on the fail, right? I always bet on the fail. Jacob Calloway, is Whistles Goes Woo fully mathematical approach to address the correlation coefficient of every player more correct? Well, he does the same thing as anyone else. If you heard David Bergman, the Whistles Go Woo guy, like he doesn't make his own projections. He aggregates projections. But he uses an optimization method that I'm assuming takes into account correlation between players. But it's not that much different than you building lineups in an optimizer. I mean, it's not that much different. You're stacking 4, you're stacking 5. I mean, in baseball, it's not gonna be much different because it's not like it's basketball. It's hard to judge. Baseball, it's like the ball obviously plays from one game and it plays from another game are not correlated at all. Maybe it's more useful for NFL. But yeah, that's one thing that most optimizers do not take into account. The actual correlation, the R's of the players between each other that bump up their projection depending on who else is in the lineup. That's one thing that most optimizers do not do yet. And you have to be accurate on that because, I mean, you need a large sample size for that stuff also. Is that the future of DFS? It's the current of DFS. When we try to stack, I'm going to stack 5X or 4-3. We're doing that anyway. It's not reflected in the projection when we do so. So I don't know if it's any different. It's just a little bit more accurate, maybe. Right. The card fan says it right here. Whistles is automating what I do manual. Right. Exactly. Most of what I do is manual. If you saw yesterday when I build my lineups, I have no proprietary process of like determining leverage in a lineup, like that type. Oh, do you have a number? Do you have a no? I eyeball it. Right? When I'm separating two chalk pitchers, I know I'm reducing ownership. And I know that I can play some of this chalk with some of that chalk and put them all together. Now, can I do that in Excel? If I learn Python, can I start making, simulations and doing all? Yeah, sure. I'm probably going to end up about the same. So I'm kind of doing stuff by concept, manually, eyeballing it. Now, someone like Brian Hooper, Brick 75, like he's much more exact. But we're essentially doing the same thing. Over a very long sample size, if it was head-to-head between me and him, he'll beat me. He's more accurate. But my lineups are directionally correct, are directionally in the right direction. Right. It's not about being precise. It's about being directionally correct. So what I show you is the concepts. You could build this all into a mathematical formula. You could have it all spit out, and you could automate it to some extent. You could run background processes. You could do all this type of stuff you want. But if going through all of that and develop, obviously, when you have a process like that, if you're not sure what you're doing, garbage in, garbage out, right? Oh, I'm going to run this all. Oh, it says this. Well, maybe my whole process is wrong. How will I know that? Well, it's going to take me a long sample size to realize that I've been screwing something up in my model, right? Something up in my sims. When I'm eyeballing it, yeah, I may not be as accurate, as precise. But most of the time, I take a look at the results DB, and I take a look at lineups that sharp players are playing. And a lot of times I'm playing similar type of lineups. So directionally, I'm fine. So learning how to do that, use the concepts and use just your eyeballs. Once you're good at that, then obviously you could start automating more. Right? I mean, me building lineups in 10 minutes didn't just come out of the blue. I've been playing for almost 6 years now. Woo Woo J Train says almost rode the Indians and Marlins to victory last night. Completely X'd out cores entirely. Okay, when ownership is that crazy on offense, it's immediate fade to me in single entry GPPs. Yeah, that I like I said, that's what I would have done. That's exactly what I would have done. Maybe not all cores. The Rockies were it's not like they were that owned. Okay, so what did I want to talk about today? What would we have? This we just went over this slate. I wanted to talk about MMA. Okay. We got a baseball slate coming up later. We got grinders live. We got all that type of stuff, but we got a big MMA slate. So, and I see in our MMA channel, I was in there like last. I'm in there anyway. But I mean, when COVID hit and MMA like UFC was the only thing that was going on, it was popping in the MMA Discord on RotoGrinders. So many people were asking stupid questions, just about stacking fights or whatever, or just how to build GPP lineups for like large field contests. And I think this card coming up tomorrow is a beautiful example of we're gonna see. I'm gonna download CSVs and see tons of lineups that are bad. And it's like how do you have a bad lineup when there's only 24 fighters to choose from? 24. Wasn't there a fight canceled? Right? Should they be in there? Do we get a new one? Why does it say 26? We don't have 13 fights tomorrow, right? Or did I miscount it? I have no idea. Who am I missing? Soriano, Giago? Okay, whatever. Do we have 13 fights? Who am I missing on my sheet? I don't know. Souza, I got Susan Mooney's. Did something get added? Why does it say 26? Or I'm just not counting? Does it say 26 because we have 2 that are missing, that are unprojected? Okay. Okay. Now I understand it. It's like all 26. It was bugging the hell out of me. Did we get a new fight? I have no idea. So in MMA is, if you want to dabble and not have to know anything about a sport, like MMA is what you play. Because you don't need to know anything. You really don't. You don't, I mean, it'll help a little. But you don't need to know that much. But the key, if you're playing large field GPPs, is like it's 200,000 to first. You want to be as unique as possible. As people are like, I just want the winning lineup. I don't care if it's split 157 ways. You're going to lose money in the long run that way. Even though, I win once, I got $1,800. Oh, it's better than winning nothing. Yeah, but if we replayed this slate out 10,000 times, you'd be losing money. You'd be losing money. So in MMA, just to show you, just a little primer. We have MMA content. You sign up to RotoGrinders Premium, hit the link in the description, get $10 off your first month for a combo premium. We got Mike, H3 Buddha, got Sean. They do the projections, they do a podcast, they do the write-up. I know Squirrel Patrol does the for the pay-per-views. He does a contrarian take. Pretty much if you do whatever Squirrel Patrol does, that's exactly what I'm doing. It's not that hard to know what the contrarian angle is. So the first thing that I do is I have a Excel spreadsheet. Okay. So this is where I put in the odds. And I got these odds from Draftkings Sportsbook, which is not the greatest place to get the odds, but whatever. I wanted a retail book, not Pinnacle or anything. So I put in the odds, and I already have a calculation that it gives me the win probability, right? The implied odds probability. You can just convert it over. The win odds, the inside the distant odds on the fighter, the round 1, it finishes within the first round in the fighter. And then I have these leverage calculations with ownership. Now we just got ownership in. I just see right here. So I'm gonna put these in. So like Gina Mazzani, like 30%, it's gonna give me these scores. 27, 36 for Giagos, just to show you what this looks like. 42, our current ownership projections, 22, 39, 31, 38, 35, 20. Am I getting this right? Lux is 20, right? Okay, I'm on the right. 26, 29, 30. Take a second. 29, 30, 19 for Vanata. 19, 20, 17, 25, 19, 40. Right, Chandler's going to be 40, 10, 12, 15, 10, and 7. Okay, so there we go for that. Let me bring this back up. Okay. Because really what I'm judging here, like in a vacuum, Lucas Ionesco is asking about the last 3 columns. All I'm doing is dividing the whatever the odds are by the ownership. That's all I'm doing. The actual number doesn't matter. It's just the number in relation to one another's, right? So it's not a fancy formula or anything. It's the win odds, 67% divided by the ownership, right? 2.22, right? That's it. When fighters are, just a general note, when fighters are more expensive, they need to score more points. Okay. Just like any other DFS sport. So most likely, fighters that are in the 9,000 and above range have to win fast. They have to score 100 plus. Fighters in the low range, they don't have to. They could just win their fight, have 70 points, and still be in the optimal lineup, the optimal first place lineup. So that's why towards the top, I care more about round one leverage, in the middle, inside the distance leverage, and then on the bottom, just winning. So we could see here with the, like, Cachoeira. I mean, look, if she's going to be 7% owned and have a 39% chance of winning based on her odds, like, she's way under-owned. Is she going to score well? That's a different story. So we see here, based on the win odds, these women's fights are way tilted too heavily in the favorites' direction. So we can see here in with Mazani, Shevchenko, Chukagian, 22%, 27%, 30%, especially at these prices with very poor inside the distance. 515, 325, 650. That's the first thing that stands out to me. Same for Bontarin over here. That's why I make these colors. I just see what stands out. Right, Bontarin seems like his inside the distance line is 27%, and he's going to be 12% owned. That seems under-owned. If these ownerships are accurate, obviously I'll update them later. I don't know. These are initial ownership that I see. Right, say Arajo, right? I mean, it just seems like these favorite women are being over-owned, and these are way under-owned. Then we take a look here, like inside the distance here on Oliveira. Like on the main event fights, you can't even look at these numbers because the 5-round fight with all the scoring. So you have to look a little bit differently. You don't care necessarily, like inside the distance in 5 round, depends on what round it is, how well they score. I mean, they're going to be owned. Oliveira and Chandler are going to be owned. But taking a look at this, is like Chukagian looks like awful. Good win odds, right? But I mean, 8,800. Schnell looks awful. If he's going to be 42% owned at 8,900. 42% owned, 14% probability for a first round win, 27% probability of inside the distance, and 61% probability of a win. So that, like, inside the 8,900, you're going to need to get a finish pretty much, right? Can he score a lot as a wrestler? I don't know. So that's why you look at this. That's why I look, just get a sense of what the slate is. But when building lineups, this is what many people do. Let's 20. A lot of people do 20 maxes, okay? So we'll do 20. This is what a lot of people do. They'll take the median lineups, the median projections, right? This is what they'll do. They'll go into build rules. They won't set anything, right? They'll set whatever. It doesn't even matter what it is, right? They'll set it to like 49.5 maybe, right? They'll do that, 49.5. One unique player, so you won't even have much diversification in your lineups. And they'll do something like make sure to have the main event, right? All right, they'll do something like this, a 1-1. And I go, give me lineups. Right? They get 100% Andrea Lee, right? Because she shouldn't be that price. It's not the right Shevchenko. This is Antonina Shevchenko, right? So you take a look and look at a bunch of these. Oh, I don't want all this Lee, right? I don't want all this Mazzani, right? I don't want all the women, right? I'm a sexist. Not just sexist. A lot of times the women's fights are not as scoring friendly, but they're a little bit more so now. Like Lucas says, women fights, man, but as the new scoring help their scores, maybe a little bit, depending on how often they get to the ground. But if it's a stand and strike fight with two, like not the most active punchers. Like, it's just as much as any, like a men's fight like that. So whatever. But this is what most people will do. They'll just like, well, what fighters do I like, right? I want a main event fighter. They'll go here. You know, well, I don't want that much Andrea Lee. I don't want that much Mizani, right? They'll look something like that. Arajo, right? They'll run some lineups. We got tons of Shane Burgos now. Right, they'll get lineups like this. Which this isn't even that bad of a lineup. They'll simply build like this. 49-9, 49-9, 49-9, 49-9, 49-8, 49-8, 49-8. It's quite possible that all of the lineups that are on this screen right now, all of them, maybe almost all of them, I won't have any of them. Like, I will literally not these lineups won't even be in my player pool. They won't even be in my set. And I'm building 100 plus. And we just built 20. And I capped some, whatever. And I don't think any of these lineups I'd play. Like, I don't think any of these lineups are playable. I don't even think they're play. I think they're all negative EV. Okay? But this is what people will do. They will put this in and they'll make these lineups. The problem comes in is that a lot of most of, if not all of these lineups will be duplicated at least 20 times. At least 20 times. Even with a 9% fighter. Even with the 10% fighter in here. 7% fighter. They'll still be duplicated over 20 times. It's $200,000 to first. No, these lineups can't win $200,000. They can't even win $100,000. They can't even win $50,000. Okay? You know what I'm looking for? Okay. Especially based on the context of this slate coming up. I think there's a very, very interesting slate. Because that's why I wanted to show you the odd sheet. Okay? Let's go back to the player pool. Let's get rid of some of these settings. Okay. We take a look at the odd sheet. What do we notice? We notice that these favored women are over-owned based on these ownerships. Chukagian, Shevchenko, Mizani. They also have poor ITD odds in comparison to other fighters in their ranges. I mean, they're cheaper. They're cheaper fighters. It's not like they're like Mizani is minus 200. Shevchenko's minus 129. He's 9,200. Why are they going to be 27% owned? I'm assuming that either that's wrong. I don't know. Based on the odds, they're over-owned and they're expensive. So let's say we take out these three favored women. Okay? Let's say we take them out. I'm not saying I would play none of them, but let's just say we take them out. Okay? Now we have 9,100, 8,900. Look at how many fighters are in the mid-range here. And also, we have fighters that on the bottom have a chance of winning that are under-owned. Obviously, these women's fighters, but also like Bontarin. But inside the distance, like pretty good numbers. Even like Ferguson at 19% owned. Barboza is 17% owned. So there are so many close fights on this card. I mean, no one, Giagos is minus 225. Minus 225 is just 69%. Right? Most of these fights are 60-40s at best. At best. 60-40s with good inside the distance probabilities. Look at this Pickett Wright fight. Even Grundy. I mean, like a lot of these fights could go either way, and the winner puts up a big score. So people are going to be playing high 8K, 9K guys or girls because it just fits. Who said you have to play them at all? Who said you have to play anyone over Oliveira? But if you use an optimizer, people are going to build lineups, and what's going to end up happening is they're going to put in their last fighter, and they're going to put in Shane Burgos or something, and they're going to realize that they have 700 left on the table, and go, well, why don't I just pay up for whoever, right? That's the natural inclination. But I mean, I'm going to just go into lineup preview. Here's a valid lineup that doesn't sound nuts, right? Let's say I play Tucker Lutz at 8,300. I play Grundy against Fanetta, right? I play Jordan Wright. I play Barbosa against Burgos, maybe a little bit chalky. Or that could have been Mooney's. It could have been whatever. Let's say I play Michael Chandler. And then I play Bontarin against Schnell. Okay. Is that a nutso lineup? Let me tell you, is that a nutso lineup? I'm playing 3 underdogs, but they're barely dogs. I mean, they're barely dogs. And I'm playing no one higher than 8,300. I'm still playing a guy from the main event. That's not a nutso lineup. I'm leaving $2,800 on the table. And this is not a nutso lineup. This makes sense. I'm not going crazy, but it leaves $2,800 on the table. It spends $47,200. How many people are building these lineups? How many people are putting a minimum salary on their build rules and not getting these lineups? Tons. But on this slate, now a lot of slates, these favorites up towards the top are minus 300, minus 400. I get it. Or you get someone like Marab or something. You get, high volume grappling guys towards the top. And I get it. But on this slate specifically, Giagos has a good win odds up here. But it'll be 36% owned in the projected ownership. Oliveira, sure, in the main event favorite. But I mean, you could build so many lineups. I mean, look, the difference between Schnell is minus 159 currently, 8,900. That's 61%. That means 39% of the time he loses. And he's going to be 42% owned. Dariush against Ferguson, right? He's minus 165. That's still 38% of the time he loses. Souza and Burgos are both going to be 38, 35% owned. Souza's a minus 115 favorite right now. It's 53%. Yeah, he is decent inside the distance, sure. But should he be 38% owned? Like, you could make so many lineups with just, if you take, just cut off right here where you could play Oliveira, even in this lineup, right? Let's say we do a lineup like this. Let's say instead of playing Chandler, we play Oliveira. We play Oliveira, Pickett, Grundy, Barbosa, Mooney's, and one of the and then and there you go, Arajo. Look, I'm leaving 2,100 on the table. This is not perfectly valid lineup. Absolutely perfectly valid lineup. That people, this could be unique. This could be duped 2 times, maybe. Because people aren't going to leave 2,000 on the table. People will leave 500 on the table, right? They'll do something like that. I'm going to get sneaky. I'm going to leave 300, 500. Now, on most weeks, leaving 2,000 on the table, you're not going to get this dynamic. You're going to be playing a lot of dogs, like a lot of significant, they're only have a 30% chance of winning type of dogs. But on this slate specifically tomorrow, it's quite, these dogs are barely dogs. I mean, they're barely underdogs. Look at all the underdog fighters, which would be 8,100 and below. Minus 106, plus 100, minus 103, plus 114, minus 108, plus 135, plus 110, plus 115, plus 130, plus 176, plus 105, plus 155. These are not all of these fighters. 51, 50. They've the lowest is 36% chance to win. But look at these ownerships. 7, 10, 15, 12, 10, 19, 17. And all of them, if some of them, if they win with their inside the distance probability, like they could be 100 plus points. First round type of score or something. But even on a decision, it says, 80 points down here could still be a winner. So that's why I wanted to point that out. This is what I mean by, this is the game theory aspect of daily fantasy sports. I didn't talk about like the fight, what's Christos Giagos' fighting style, or I've never heard of these people, most of them, right? Only from playing DFS. That's all I've heard about some of these people. That's about it. But I could see right here, just based on the betting odds, that some of these, how is Shevchenko going to be 27% owned? Or Chukagian, like she doesn't do anything. 22%, she's the type of fighter where it's like if she's 10%, maybe I'd take a shot. But 22%, maybe I don't even have her in any lineups at all. But that just creates so much opportunity to make these lineups that are right in the mid-range, because the odds are so close to each other in most of these fights. And people aren't going to realize that, and they go, I guess I'm playing Gina Mazzini. Like, why? She's 9,300. I played slates with her on it. She shouldn't be 9,300 on any slate. Or people are going to play Schnell. They're going to play Schnell and Giagos and Oliveira and Dariush and Souza, right? It's all this ownership here that's going to revolve around these fighters. But you could play like so much up the middle, leave 1,000 on the table, either be unique or only duplicated under 5 times, which means you have a chance at 50,000 plus when you split. And I think that's the way, the game theory perspective, that's what you do based on these ownerships. You tell me it's different. You tell me Mazzini or Shevchenko or Chukagian are down to like 10%. Okay, now that middle build is going to be a little bit more, but still, most people are not going to leave. I showed you a lineup that left 2,800 on the table. That wasn't nuts. That wasn't like I'm taking like 6 underdogs all the way at the bottom type of thing. That leaves 2,800 on the table. These 9K fighters that may not put up 80 points in a win. They'll have to get first round finishes. Now, if they do, great. Okay, they do. But you can build so many lineups. Look, I could set my build rules. Let's say I set my build rules to 47.5 to 49,000. I'm not saying to constrain it to that much, but if I build 12 lineups like that, they're not nuts. It tries to spend, but what it's going to continually do is try to spend up for Mazzini. Right? It's going to give you all to Andrea Lee because she's underpriced based on the odds. So people are going to get stuck building these types of lineups. And it's like, no, you could go even further down. Do you need Mazzini? No. Take her out. Mazzani? I don't know how to pronounce her name. You start getting lineups where you're leaving 1,000 on the table, and these lineups don't look, they're not crazy. I showed you a lineup leaving 2,000 on the table that was not crazy. But people don't do it. But people don't want to do this. I'm telling you, you're aiming for first place by yourself. Remember, that's what you're doing. And if a lineup that spends $50,000 wins and is duplicated 27 times, you never were going to screw it. Then you go on to next week. But I just wanted to show how to build plus EV lineups for MMA, especially for tomorrow's slate. So if you're playing MMA tomorrow and you're playing the large GPP, the $25, 200,000 to first place, maybe I shouldn't be telling you this because I want to build those types of lineups. That leaving money on the table, a lot of money on the table, is absolutely valid. Is probably the highest EV approach. You're going to win less often, but when you win, you're going to win first place by being unique. I mean, who's leaving that much money on the table? But that's the theory of DFS. That's what it is. That's what I teach here. Little MMA on the DFS pregame show. So it's not just the MLB DFS pregame show. It's whatever. So you can pick up the theory of daily fantasy sports, how to think like a professional DFS player, 15-hour audio masterclass. I go over all the concepts like this are in there. Game objectives, player selection, expected value, leverage, correlation, construction, risk management, exploit, psychology. Pick it up. Theoryofdfs.com. It applies to any sport. That's why I talked about MMA. So there you go. There's some MMA stuff. NBA, MLB, it doesn't matter. All these concepts, every sport, same thing. That's why you see, hey, the top DFS players, they seem to be good at every sport. Yeah, because they're good at game theory. They're good at statistics, probability, and the theory of games, decision-making. So go pick that up, theoryofdfs.com. And just by luck, what's going to happen is that all these favored women, Mazzani and Shevchenko, they, first round knockouts, right? That's right. First round submissions or something. And then 105 points. I mean, how are they going to score? How is Chirkagian going to score over 100 points in a fight? How is Shevchenko going to score over 100 points? I don't know. Maybe it happens. Or maybe this ownership comes down. I was expecting the ownership to be just down and maybe I'd take a shot. But now it looks like people are actually playing them. But I think it's primarily because you have the salary. And people are used to paying up for fighters. So they do it anyway. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We got a baseball slate coming up later tonight. MLB Grinders Live. I don't know. It's probably Dean and someone else. It's probably. I don't know. I didn't look at the schedule. We got Crunch Time Hybrid with Kevin Roth, Andy Means, someone else for baseball. I don't know. Cheese, maybe. Cards, possibly. I don't know. I should look at the schedule before saying this. But that's for premium members. You can always pick up your premium membership. Click on the link in the description below. Get $10 off your first month. You get lineup HQ. You get everything, right? I'm in the Discord, right? You could always mention me there. I answer questions there as well. So that's it. That's it for this week, right? Another week. We got basketball's finally done. Maybe the baseball, maybe the MLB contests start. Maybe they start jacking them up a little bit. Maybe with the prize pools. Maybe we'll see. But I'll see you next week because I'm always here for you guys, Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, on the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.